Join me as I dive into Joe Abercrombie's Red Country. Each of his books, as I've been working my way through First Law, is the best one yet. Can he keep the streak alive? So the answer is no. This is an excellent and very enjoyable book, but the one before it, The Heroes, was better, but only by the slimmest of margins. Let me explain why. Welcome to Fantasy for the Ages. I'm Jim, the father of this father-son show, where we talk about fantasy, science fiction, horror, and other nerdy things. Today, I'm here to talk about Red Country, the sixth book in the First Law World series. World Series, interesting, by Joe Abercrombie. This book came out in October of 2012 and is grimdark fantasy. Some of the best you're going to find. I've been having an absolute blast with Abercrombie's standalone novels in the First Law world. I read the original trilogy a few years back, and I enjoyed them, but they actually did not inspire me to immediately move on to more First Law books. When I got done, I was kind of like, I'm done. That's enough of First Law. What an idiot. Because I've enjoyed these three standalone novels now tremendously more than the original trilogy. That said, each of these relies heavily on the characters and world building established in that original trilogy. And standalone? Yeah, it's rather a misnomer. Yes, they each tell a unique story that doesn't just flow through a series of books, but they also build on each other. This is especially true for Red Country in regards to a couple of key characters, which I'll get to a little later in this spoiler-light review. Now let me give you a summary, the basics of what happens here in the story. Again, no serious spoilers. As with other First Law books, there are multiple key plot lines going on at the same time in this book. The two primary stories are that of Shy South and her adoptive father, Lamb, an older, strong, nine-fingered Northman with a mysterious past. They work out on a farm in the rural settings out here, and they live with Shy's two younger siblings. Lamb and Shy's mother had been friends when she passed away, unfortunately, and Lamb made a deathbed promise to look out for her children, which comes into play when, early in the story, the two young children are kidnapped. Shy and Lamb will follow out into the far country, the wild, wild west, to do whatever it takes to rescue the kids. At the same time, and in that same far country location, Nicomo Koska, famed mercenary and leader of yet another infamous band of mercenaries, has been sent out, hired by the Union, on a mission to root out rebels, as the Union would like to annex this region of unclaimed wild country that sits between land already controlled by the Union and its opponent, the Empire, the Gurkish Empire. Koska, of course, is willing to do the work because he likes to get paid. He's good with money, but mostly he's thinking this is a cash grab. He'll go out here to find rebels while hoping to loot the country clean and see how much he can pad his coffers without actually risking his skin. Many events over the course of the story will lead these two plot lines and these two groups to interact and even come to some cross purposes with pretty shattering results. And of course, there is much more to the plot than just those two main groups, but spoiler light. That's all you're going to get out of me here. You've got to read the story to get the goods. The setting of Red Country primarily occurs, as I've referenced, in the far country, which is a frontier land with a lot of similarity to the American Old West. And from the Union, it is out west, so it even shares that. Other elements that ring similar notes to the American Old West include wilderness dangers with people out there on their own, away from the comforts of more civilized climes. A gold rush, so you've got people rushing out here trying to hit it rich. And the tension between people who just want to start a fresh and simple life coming into conflict with those willing to take advantage of the weak. Add to this the increasing industrialization of society that Abercrombie builds into the story. So that's on display, taking some basic elements he introduced in the heroes and expanding a little further because a little more time has passed. And as I understand it, this sets the stage for a key element of the next trilogy, The Age of Madness. So, again, a great, rich setting Abercrombie has created, set a little bit after the events of the heroes. I'll give this a 5 out of 5. As to the depth of the plot, there is a ton again. There's so many layers to this plot. The reader enjoying learning more and more about what's going on and why. I was never bored, not for a moment, and had so much to chew on as Abercrombie takes a quest to rescue siblings and turns it into both a personal discovery and growth arc and a story of redemption and so much more. So, again, for plot depth, 5 out of 5. As for the characters, there are so many delightful characters introduced here, along with a few old favorites that Joe Abercrombie brings into this one as well. He once again wows us with his ability to create genuine, relatable people you can both understand and appreciate, while in some cases just loving them and in others despising them. No one comes off as one note and shallow. No one is all white or all black, and they're all massively entertaining. So, speaking of entertaining, some of my favorites include Shy South, who I mentioned before, and her eventual interactions with the lawyer, who's also a cattle driver, who's also a carpenter, Temple. And then having Nikimo Koska in this story again, I mean, he's great. We saw him in the original trilogy. We got a bunch of him in Best Served Cold, and now we get him again. And then there's the character of Lamb and the transformation we get to see about him. There's something familiar about this guy. And the elements of the story that are introduced by Dab Sweet. What a character. A legend on the wild frontier, who's not all that the stories say, and yet in some ways is much more. I'll also highlight the fun I had in seeing Glamma Golden back for this story. Now, he played a role in the heroes, but at the end of the heroes, there was reason for him to make himself scarce. And many years later now, here we have him again. And while he was more of an important peripheral character in the heroes, here, he's significant. Still a small role, but much more significant than the last book. We also get to enjoy one character who appears in all 3 of the standalone novels, Call Shivers. His role here was just perfect, in my mind. 5 out of 5 for characters. Abercrombie's writing style, he leans in again to this gritty grimdark that he's come to be known for, with amazing characters that take center stage of the story. I appreciate how he actually balances well witty conversation with epic violence moments, and then detailed, interesting world building scattered throughout. For this one, he definitely leans into some Western tropes. I'm meaning traditional Westerns, if that meant anything to you, and to give us a framework in which to tell this story. And so we've got all the commonalities of the Old West, including this frontier town where there's a face-off between the mayor and Papa Doc, and people taking sides, and there's gonna be a showdown. Stuff like that is great. I'll also highlight again that Abercrombie's story pacing is superb. He keeps you engaged and sucks you in, making you want to just consume this book as fast as you can, which is what I did. 5 out of 5 for the writing style. As for themes, any messages he's trying to convey to us, there's a few that come to mind. I'm not going to say everything that might be there, but let's say one of them is redemption. Lamb is one of the characters who has a great redemption story. But Shy South and Temple, they also have some significant redemption elements here. Now, Nikimo Koska, not so much. Violence and its consequences would be another theme. He who lives by the sword dies by the sword, right? This lesson is being driven home by Abercrombie. If you base your life on violence, a peaceful end is not likely. But also, along the way, you're probably not going to find much peace. Then there's the theme of justice versus revenge. There's a clear difference. And being a grimdark fantasy, those who seek for justice are not likely to find it. The world screws you over. But those willing to do whatever it takes to secure revenge are more likely to be successful. However, the price can be high. One last theme that's pretty significant in here is the high price of greed. Oh, this is so on display. Demonstrated by the mayor's plot line to some degree, but even more so by Koska and his mercenary band. The positive power of the opposite of greed is illustrated by the inventor you come to meet in this story. But I'll let you discover that one for yourself. It's a cute bit of the plot. What would I warn you about regarding this story? There are certainly triggers for violence, abduction, slavery, and lots of blood. These are not good things. It's a grimdark story, people. You shouldn't be reading Grimdark if any of that triggers you. My rating and recommendation, a hard recommend for any grimdark fantasy fan. This is a must-read. It's so well written. It's not just, oh, let's throw in grimdark elements. It's a beautifully written story. As I said early on, I almost enjoyed this as much as the heroes. This story's reliance on the quest fantasy trope is probably what holds it back just a little below the heroes, which had such a unique setting that really made that shine. But this is a solid, wonderful book, another 5 out of 5. I'm just reading a lot of good books lately. That's where I'll leave you here. If you've read Red Country and have thoughts, I'd love to see them. Do you agree with my takes on this? If there's anything else you'd add, please let me know. While you're thinking about it, give us a like. You made it this far through the video, and subscribe. And check out all the other episodes that Zach and I have put together for this channel. Thanks for watching. We'll talk to you next time.